Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Hummingbirds, the topic of the day. People are surprised when I tell them that August is the best month for ruby-throated hummingbirds in our area, Kansas City area, and that's surprising to a lot of people because it's so hot. And we mainly think of feeding birds and bird activity being really good in the spring, and that's when everybody gets really excited about hummingbirds and when they try to attract them to their yard. And some people have luck with getting a male to set up territory in their yard, and then they have the hummingbird uh, activity in May and June and July uh, because they have nearby nesting. But a lot of us aren't that lucky. A lot of us, we put our hummingbird feeders out in the spring and we do our best to attract a male to get set up a territory, but it often doesn't work. If the females don't find your yard or nearby good for nesting, then they move on and he has to move on. And I've always taught people if that happens to you and you're tired of changing your nectar every couple of days, especially in June and July when it's so hot, and you're not getting any activity, I always recommend putting out cleaning up the hummingbird feeder, putting it out empty, and then that way, if the hummingbird does happen by, you'll just think, "Oh, there's no nectar." But I always recommend in the Kansas City region right here, and I remember you may be north, you may be south, but right here in our region to mark your calendar somewhere on the calendar for the last week of July to make sure that you make up a fresh batch of nectar and put just a little bit in your hummingbird feeder and get it back out. And why is that? Why the last week of July? Well, it has mainly to do with this, and that is the nesting season is coming to an end, and the babies will soon be fledging if they're not already. Again, if you live to the south of us, they probably already fledged. If you live to the north, you may be a little bit behind us. But in our area, about the last week of July, those babies take off and they start flying around, and they don't know the routine. They don't know to be territorial, things like that. So at this time, from late July and basically through August, you we have the most hummingbirds that we're going to have in our region and probably in your region too. And as you have all the adult males are still around. Remember, the adult males have that ruby red throat, and they're just beautiful green on their back. You have all the adult females, which is this beautiful green on their back and the white on the throat. And then we start seeing all the babies as well. And remember, there's probably twice, three times as many babies as there are adults at least at the start of that fledging season. And the way you tell them is they do a little more like the females, but when they first fledge, especially their backs are a real mottled gray green. They're not that brilliant green of the adults. They look kind of disheveled, if you will, and they're gradually going to mold into that beautiful green back. But this is a good way to tell them. Again, brilliant photo. I've used this many times. I absolutely love this photo because it shows you the length of the tongue. Whenever they are molting, get a little bit older in the summer. I don't know how well you can see it on this. It's really, you can. There's some spots on the throat here, and that's a real good indication of an immature male ruby-throated hummingbird. His back is molted in pretty well, but he obviously is not getting his red gorget until next year. And then, if you're extraordinarily lucky, you might see this. This is a true albino ruby-throated hummingbird that was seen here in Kansas City and photographed really well a few years back. But most of the time, we're going to get back to what's really going on. It's the activity is going to peak up and pick up. And what's going to happen here is there's the female, the young will start coming in. The adults will chase them away. The and the first to leave in our area maybe late August is the males will start to pull out, and then the adult females will leave after them, and then you'll be left with mainly the young birds. And then by late August, we're early September, we're getting migrants. We start getting birds from Iowa, the Dakotas, and Minnesota, north of us are migrating into the area. And they're still chasing and very territorial around feeders because they have to fatten up for that fall migration. get this back to me. We love to tell people, in the fall is the time if you're going to add a second hummingbird feeder or even a third hummingbird feeder, that is the time to do it. We don't have enough hummingbirds here in this area to really warrant multiple hummingbird feeders in spring and especially early summer to midsummer. But in the fall, when we get this activity, we get all the young and the migration activity. And for us, peak is going to be around the last week of August to the first week of September is when there's big movement. And then after that, it's all about wind patterns. Winds shifting out of the north and pushing, because these hummingbirds can't fly against the wind. So they have to have a wind assisted migration. So when we start getting winds out of the north in mid September, that's when we really see an exodus of hummingbirds out of our area. So that's what's going on. That's why August is the best month for hummingbirds. If you had no luck in the spring, you haven't had any luck, you think, oh, I can't ever get hummingbirds, try August. It is the month for hummingbirds, in especially our area, the Kansas City area. And I think really to the north and a little bit to the south, August is still probably the best month there is. So 4 parts water, 1 part sugar. Make sure you keep it fresh, change it every couple of days, give it a good cleaning. You don't want to make the hummingbird sick. So hummingbird season is getting ready to explode. So great idea for a topic. Thanks for that. Give us a like, give us a share. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Until next time, we'll come out and let's talk birds.